Saludos a toda la afición de Lucha Libre Online. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de Lucha Libre Online. Y tenemos el enorme privilegio de presentarles a nuestro invitado especial en la tarde de hoy, de Dresden, Alemania, para el mundo, pero en directo desde Florida, anteriormente conocido como Alexander Wolfe, ex campeón de parejas de NXT. Actualmente él es el señor Tischer, Alexander Wolfe. It is an honor, man, for us to have you as our guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. ¿Cómo estás?
Todo muy bien, todo excelente. So you know Spanish?
A little bit, just some few words, but not as much as I would love to.
But where do you learn it? School or just speaking with people?
Speaking with people living in South Florida and living in Florida in general. So sometimes I pick something up, and then I went for a training seminar for Lucha Libre, for Jiu-Jitsu and grappling. I went to Barcelona, and Spanish-speaking country as well, or Spanish-speaking like town. And I had to spend 4 days there with not knowing one word of Spanish. And then after a while, I kind of understand it. And then I picked up some words like arriba, abajo, stuff like that. And, vale, something, a little bits and pieces. I always try to know languages that I probably can speak like a toddler. So just get some basics in, get some, at least, know how to say, hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien. So,
well, that's really good. I'll translate that briefly. ¿Cómo Alexander Wolfe sabe español? Sencillo. Vive en South Florida. Casi todo el mundo habla español, son latinos. Y de alguna palabrita u otra comienza a pescar y añadirle un poco a su idioma. En España, practicó también en Barcelona, y ahí entonces se le pegaron varias de las costumbres. Y sé decir algunas palabras como las que mencionó: arriba, abajo, hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, o sea, lo básico. Y como dice, como un toddler puede hablar varios idiomas, pero se defiende, o sea, que sabe algo de español y probablemente está entendiendo lo que estoy diciendo. So it's good. I wanted to talk to you about your career inside the wrestling industry. You have a pretty particular road inside, or pathway inside this industry, because you're from a country that when you started, it was not common in terms of pro wrestling. I'm talking about Germany. While living in Dresden, a huge city in Germany, how did your passion for pro wrestling started? Like, which wrestler cultivated you enough to do this for your profession?
What I remember, like, wrestling was quite big in Germany, but it was not huge as in North America or just in the United States. But a lot of wrestlers back in the days, like in the 80s, 70s, especially from England or even from the States, when they had a world tour, they always stopped in Germany, because Germany had back then a lot of tournaments over 5 weeks or something. So every day you could work in front of over 10,000 people. But then the wrestling industry kind of collapsed in Germany in around 2000. That was not really something professional anymore. So, but me as a kid, as a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I saw my parents watching WWE or WWF in that time, and I was watching with them, and I was right away hooked, because I'm a big fan of comics and everything. And even as a child, I always watched the cartoons like Sable Rider and like all like those anime stuff. So I loved like superhero kind of stuff, and that reminded me, but in real life. So I started like watching wrestling. I was a big fan of Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker in that day, because my like favorites there, especially The Undertaker. And yeah, then later, around 10 years later, maybe, no, not 10 years later, it was about 93, so 7 years later, I had like a big gap because of school, couldn't watch it that late at night. So I kind of disappeared from like the wrestling scene, like as a fan. But then 2000, I picked it back up with WWE, WWF in that time again. And then I decided kind of, I want to do it by myself. And then I had like a chance to start the training there in a non-really professional environment, but it wasn't something backyard-ish. It was some guys, they trained somewhere, got some, seminars done, and then they taught us like how to fall, how to roll, like all that basic stuff in a sport hall, which they rented by the state.
I'll translate that. Ok, ¿cómo comienza la trayectoria de Alexander Wolfe dentro de la industria de la lucha libre? En Alemania hubo un punto en que la industria era bastante popular, estamos hablando de los 90, cuando de momento venía WWF en aquel momento a hacer los tours, tenían 10,000 fanáticos presentes, una cantidad bien alta, pero llega el punto en donde la industria en Alemania colapsa, como que ya no era tan popular, era distinta y la gente no le prestaba tanta atención. En el caso de Alexander Wolfe, él comienza a verla por televisión cuando era un chamaquito y recuerda nombres como Hulk Hogan, como Bret Hart, pero específicamente The Undertaker, que fueron uno de los nombres que más le llamaron o más cautivaron su atención en aquel momento. Y como fanático tuvo un lapso de tiempo en donde él detiene de ver la industria por cuestiones de escuela, de 3 a 7 años más o menos, y dejó de verla como fanático de la industria. Entonces nuevamente en el 2000 es que retoma este gustito por la industria, pero así es más o menos en donde, pues vamos a decirlo de esta manera, Alexander Wolfe comienza a enamorarse de la industria de la lucha libre. And that was as a fan, but another thing completely different is going into the other side of the fence and start training. How do you manage, to put yourself in a wrestling ring for the first time when you were just about, I don't know, like 13 years old back then?
Yeah, 13 years. I had my first match then 1 year later. And it was okay because I wasn't afraid or anything. And even like the 13 years, like I grew up in a generation where we used to climb trees and just, be outside and play and not sit in front of the PlayStation and eat chips and get fat. So, in that being said, I was always active. It was always like playing rugged, like, getting home with a little shiner or something because the neighbor's kid was messing around and stuff like that. So but I love the competition of wrestling. I love that first of all the entertainment aspect, but also the physical part of it, that you have to lift somebody, that somebody has to work with you together to make everything great and everything. So it was like a good kind of team sport, but you on your own doing something. And before like wrestling, I played soccer, I played football. And I lost my passion for that, and I got my passion back for wrestling. So, and also because I could do it for myself and was not need to play in a team or play with some other guys. And when the other guy would not score or whatever, you would lose the game. So I found my passion back for wrestling, and even like as an active like part of it. So in the match, I probably watching it back, I would kind of like cringe, but I think every beginning is a beginning, and it's not perfect, but it's the beginning of something. And when I remember correctly, it was in front of some friends, family, of course, but in my hometown. Like there was some people there that never watched wrestling, and everybody had fun. So I have good memories about that. Yeah.
I'll translate that. ¿Cómo Alexander Wolfe entonces pasa de ser un fanático a llegar al otro lado a practicar? Bueno, lo primero es que él lo hace cuando tenía 13 años. O sea, bien pocas personas lo hacen a una edad tan joven. Tal vez en México es común, pero no en el resto del mundo. Alexander entonces a los 13 años comienza a ingresar en esto, y un año después ya estaba debutando. Pero menciona algo bien importante. Su generación, que es la misma generación que la mía, no es como ahora. Antes todo el tiempo tú estabas trepando árboles, you were climbing trees, estabas haciendo mil cosas, siempre estabas activo a la parte de afuera jugando, no estabas como que tirado comiendo papitas y engordando, no, sino que ya en aquel momento tenías una condición de salud y una condición física bastante óptima. Entonces él menciona, obviamente Alemania es un país enorme por el fútbol, enorme. Sabemos que de ahí salieron jugadores como el mismo Bastian Schweinsteiger, Miroslav Klose, entre muchos otros. Pues él era fanático del fútbol, pero llega el punto en donde el fútbol lo echa a un lado y ahí vuelve su pasión por la industria de la lucha libre y le llama la atención nuevamente, y ahí es que entonces comienza a correr ese fuego. Estaba en un pueblo en donde la gente lo respaldaba y pues vamos a decirlo de esa manera, esos fueron sus primeros pasos dentro de la industria, que fuera una trayectoria un poquito no tradicional, vamos a llamarlo de esa manera. You were a kid back then, man. Did your parents supported your decision of doing this as your profession? Did they took it seriously?
In the beginning, they've been a little bit like suspicious about the whole thing, but in the end, it went to the point where they saw, okay, it's a club, it's nothing backyard, something, there is something behind it. You have to sign a contract, like for paying the monthly fee and everything, and you are insured about that. So they realized, okay, it's more legit than it actually sounds like. And also after that, my father was really my biggest supporter on that. Both my parents, but especially my father, because he was an amateur wrestler before.
Oh.
So, and he had to, quit amateur wrestling because of politics back in the day, because he grew up in the DDR, which was the more like the Russian influenced part of Germany, east and west with the Iron Curtain. So like because of politics, he had to kind of like, they took his license away. So he never could fulfill his dream of becoming a professional or just make the amateur wrestling as his profession. But then he realized, oh, I'm interested in becoming a pro wrestler, which is, the foundation of pro wrestling is amateur wrestling. And he was very proud of me that I would kind of like, step in his footsteps and just continue living his dream. And he could live his dream through me with, and supporting me. Like he drove me around to my first shows where, like, Germany is quite small in comparison to North America. So he drove me 2 hours to the next town for a wrestling match. He drove me here and there on his own cost. So and back in the day, I did not got a lot of money, maybe 20 euros or something, but it was not like I couldn't make a living with that. How? It's just been 2 or 3 years in training and just been lucky that I got 1 or 2 bookings a year. But also he was a guy who always supported me financially as well. And every time when he had time. So for example, when we in Dresden, we always got a ring from Berlin, and we had to kind of like transport the ring from Berlin to Dresden that we can do a wrestling show in Dresden. And he worked for a moving company, so he always took his big truck to drive up to Berlin, and everybody put money together to pay for the gasoline, but it was his free time and his risk of when something happens with the truck, it would be the worst thing for his career. So he drove up, got the ring, drove back down, upload and everything. So he helped also a lot of guys who kind of like depended on his decision to do that, to have the wrestling show in Dresden.
Wow, I'll translate this amazing story. El papá, okay, le pregunto si sus papás lo respaldaron porque empezó en edad muy temprano. En un principio como que no estaban muy seguros de ello, porque pensaban que tal vez era algo más amateur, más backyard, pero cuando ellos ven que de repente es un club, una escuela, una industria profesional en donde te hacen firmar un contrato y la persona, en este caso su hijo, estaba asegurado médicamente, pues ok, y esto es más serio. Su papá era luchador amateur en aquel momento, pero cuando Alemania se dividió, en aquel momento en Alemania del Este y Alemania del Oeste, que queda en una zona, vamos a decirlo así, media, y pues por políticas le quitaron la licencia y su sueño siempre fue ser luchador profesional, pero pues se la quitaron y de momento ve que su hijo, sin ningún tipo de amor por esto, anteriormente sin ningún tipo de inculcación, llega y comienza a amar esta industria como la amó él, y ver que estaba siguiendo sus zapatos para su papá fue como que lo más grande. Su mamá también lo apoyaba, pero su papá se convierte en su fanático número uno. Y un chamaquito de 13 o 14 años, de momento ya está haciendo bookings, ya tiene sus bookings, no te están pagando una cantidad de dinero enorme, te están pagando 20 euros, pero para un nene de 13 o 14 años es súper bueno. Y su papá se montaba en el carro con él y lo llevaba a los shows 2 horas de distancia, muchas veces en otras ciudades, porque en Dresden no se podía. Y de hecho, su papá era el que con su camión, con su truck, montaba el cuadrilátero, él montaba el ring allá adentro con todos los muchachos, todo el mundo ponía dinero y el papá en su tiempo libre, gratis, llevaba el cuadrilátero o el ring a otra de las ciudades donde ellos iban a estar grabando o luchando esa semana y lo viraba ese mismo día. Entonces, arriesgaba su carrera, arriesgaba su vida y arriesgaba su camión, que era su método de ingreso, porque trabajaba en un moving company, para poder ayudar a su hijo a cumplir sus sueños. O sea, qué historia más bonita que esta. So, after this beautiful story, you had the opportunity to wrestle in Germany as a general, but specifically, there's a match a few years after you debut, maybe 10, 11 years after. And I'm talking about the match against El Generico in WXW for the Unified Wrestling Championship, Unified World Wrestling Championship at that point. How important was this match for you, considering your background, considering you were, the 13-year-old kid that was climbing trees and wrestling while his father drove him like 2 hours to watch him, and he was, finally living the dream. For you as a human being, how important was this match for you and for your family?
It was very important. It was for me. So when I won the title, from El Generico in a fatal four-way match, but I did not pin him. So, and the next show we had I had to defend my title against him because he was the title holder before. So, and he challenged me to that match. So in the end, it was like the real title match, and I could beat him there. It was very important, but especially for me, like it was something where finally I had the chance to prove myself that I'm worthy a title contender, that I'm worthy a champion. Then in the end, I had the chance to represent WXW as Unified World Champion, which was a great time. But in that time, I wasn't that much ready right now to be a worthy champion, because I still had to figure out some stuff. And I still had to, it's always more satisfying to hunt for something, and when you have it, then the real work begins to be a worthy champion, to represent yourself as a champion, to defend the championship and everything. And I feel in that time I wasn't experienced enough, and I wasn't ready to be a worthy champion. So it kind of felt not bad when I lost the title, but also for me was like the knowledge of I have to step up, I have to get better, I have to elevate myself, I have to evolve. So, but like the match was great and the success was good, and especially what I like about that is I have the feeling of the trust of the company, that they want to have me as a champion, that they see something in me. And then kind of to keep on going and to not disappoint them, and hopefully they would have the trust again to put the title on my waist or on my shoulder, depends.
I'll translate that. Ok,
Yep.
Después de hace su debut en el 2001, comienza a evolucionar y pasa por todo el circuito independiente de Europa y de Alemania. Hay una lucha en particular, hubo un Fatal 4-Way en donde él gana el campeonato mundial peso completo de WXW, el campeonato unificado, y se lo quita al genérico, quien era el campeón. Pero nunca le contó el genérico, no le contó, él le contó a otra persona. Y llega el momento en donde toca entonces enfrentarse 1-1. ¿Cuán importante fue esta lucha? Mucho. Para un muchacho que tal vez no estaba o pensaba que no estaba listo en aquel momento, tener la oportunidad de estar 1-1 con uno de los grandes en el circuito independiente fue enorme. Pero sobre todo es algo importante lo que él dice, que la empresa tenga la confianza, el trust en ti para poder ser esa persona, to be that man, to be the person carrying that title, ser esa persona cargando ese título en la cintura o en el hombro, en donde sea. Simplemente se sintió bien porque te muestra que la empresa confía en ti, te muestra que la empresa valora tu trabajo, te muestra que la empresa, al igual que el circuito de la industria de la lucha libre de Alemania completa, cree en ti como ese top star y que poco a poco entonces iban a construir algo que de eso vamos ahora a tocarlo. After a few years, well, more than a decade in the independent circuit, in Germany, in Europe, in the UK, in all the whole freaking world, man, you traveled the world for a while, you decided to put the pen on the paper with WWE. So who contacted you from WWE initially, and why did you took the decision to sign with them, knowing that you had, to take a plane and move at least 9 hours into the other side of the world?
I got the invitation from WWE for a tryout in 2014 to London, England, because they went over on a European tour and they always have a stop in London or in Manchester. And at that time it was in London in the O2 Arena, and they had like 2 days of tryout. So they invited me for a tryout, went to a tryout. Obviously it went good for me, and then a couple months later they contacted me and asked me if I'm willing to sign a contract for the NXT development process, or like for NXT. It was beginning of June 2014, and I moved over in April 2015. The whole process of just being in Germany and waiting till I can come over was necessary because of visa stuff, and they had to do a background check that I'm not a criminal or anything, and also just to, you know, get the contract and sign it and get it notarized and send it back, and everything is written in paper and signed. So yeah, I kind of packed up my stuff, just did not have a lot because I just kind of lived with my parents, lived up with my ex-girlfriend together. And in that time, I just had like 2 suitcases of clothes and like some personal stuff. Then I just moved over with 2 suitcases and kind of like built up my life from scratch again over in the States.
Wow. I'll translate that and I'll get to a question regarding
Cool.
that. Ok, Alexander Wolfe hace un tryout con WWE en Inglaterra, en Londres, en el O2 Arena, porque WWE tenía el European Tour y siempre hacían esa parada de Londres. Lo invitan, los impresiona y deciden firmarlo. Lo llaman, alguien agarra el teléfono y le dicen, hey, we want to sign you, queremos firmarte. Eso fue en junio del 2014, June 2014. 10 meses luego, en abril del 2015, entonces es que él está viajando a Alemania, porque le tomó tiempo. O sea, él estaba en Alemania, tenías que la visa, tenías que firmar el contrato, notarizarlo, enviarlo de vuelta a los Estados Unidos, todo ese proceso. Y aquí viene la parte interesante. Él estaba viendo con sus papás en aquel momento, o sea, había dejado de su novia, y 2 maletas, metió todas sus cosas, toda la ropa, todas las pertenencias personales, las agarró, se montó en un avión y se fue a construir su vida desde cero, toda su vida en 2 maletas. That's actually my next question. You put your life, man, in 2 bags, and you left your family, you left everything aside to, you know, to live up the dream and to achieve that goal you have always had with the WWE. How difficult was to adjust to the American lifestyle? Because I've been in both countries, Germany and the US, and boy, they're really different. One from another, especially Florida, which on a day it is a hell of a sun. An hour later you have a thunderstorm, and a week later you have a hurricane advice. So how was that situation for you?
It was quite all right. It wasn't that much a struggle because I love to be on the road. I love to travel. I had this kind of when I had my 2 tours in Japan before, where we went from like the north down to like the north was something like Kanazawa, where it was a little bit more like windy and a little bit colder, and then we went down to Osaka, which was burning hot, like super sunny, and you know, so different temperatures. And also I'm used to season weather like in Germany and everything. But with Florida was the thing, like the whole adventure. And of course, in that time, 2015, there was not a lot of good paid options in Europe and the world. I probably could have made the move to America, but in that time, the independent circuit wasn't that much doing good in that time, money-wise. Also in England, for example, or Europe in general. So I did my stuff in Germany, which was good, and we had a lot of dates where it can work, and we kind of made some money, but not so much that you could say I have to quit my daytime job to, you know, live from the money aspect of what you made in the independent wrestling. So for me, it was like a lottery win, signing with WWE, because I know I will make some money. In the beginning, it was okay money. I thought it was more, but then I did not knew that life is more expensive in the United States of America than in Europe. You can say, for example, when you would buy groceries for, let's say, $300, you would probably pay not even the half of it in Germany for even better quality of food. But that's something where I had to adapt. And also, like the American culture, as you say, German culture and American culture are way different. And I think after the first month, I had kind of like a culture shock where I had to kind of like, you know, collect myself to not freak out, because a lot of things you know, turned out to be quite weird. But in the end, you know, you get yourself in work, you make it work, you adapt. Even if you don't like it, if you do not change in the same pattern like American people, you still have to be respectful and have to be, you know, flexible enough to deal with it, and in the end to live with it. And right now, I'm still in Florida for a few weeks. I'm not bothered that much, but in the beginning, I knew like, or I still know it was quite a struggle for the first month.
I'll translate that. Ok, Alexander Wolfe se mueve al otro lado del mundo. ¿Cuán difícil fue esto culturalmente hablando? Bueno, lo primero que él dice, en aquel momento en el circuito independiente no había mucho dinero, no era tan popular. Entonces, si tenía un trabajo de día, tuvo que dejar su trabajo de día para poder moverse al lado del mundo, porque él lo considera como una lotería. O sea, él tal vez no estaba ganando una cantidad de dinero grandísima, pero sí estaba ganando, ok, estaba ganando bien, hasta que ves el costo de vida en Estados Unidos, que es mucho más alto, por lo que él dice, que cuando lo estaba viendo en Alemania, en Europa, sobre todo la comida. Con $300 tú puedes hacer otras cosas y obtener comida de mejor calidad en Alemania, pero en Estados Unidos no tan bueno. Entonces, a la hora, sobre todo a la hora de comer, y llega el momento en donde varios meses después, varias semanas, se topa como que con un shock cultural, que okay, tengo que componerme, tengo que estarme tranquilito y seguir dándole. Pero sí, obviamente fue bueno de la parte económica por cumplir su sueño, moverse al otro lado del mundo y ganar buen dinero, pero fue difícil adaptarse por ese shock cultural que de momento tiene. Es como él menciona, cuando estabas en el norte, tenías ese viento, ese frío de momento, y cuando ibas a Osaka, el calor era del DH, era bien frío, era bien caluroso. En Estados Unidos es lo mismo. Cuando él llega a Florida, pues la temperatura y todo es parte de esa experiencia cultural y variada de mudarte a los Estados Unidos. Well, you know, after you signed with NXT, you had your debut match against none other than Samoa Joe on a televised match. What do you recall at that moment, and how special for you was to have Joe as your opponent?
It was great. I always still been a fan of Samoa Joe. I loved his days in TNA when he kind of like messed up the X division and everything. So, and because he was such an inspiration, such a big, massive guy who can work fast like a mouse, just being like super fast but strong and everything. So he was the first guy I saw who could do like the stuff what usually lighter and smaller wrestlers do. So, and just he debuted a few weeks before in NXT, and just me having my first match against him, and also with a little bit of time, because usually you just get jobbed out, but just having like 8 minutes in total, and I had the chance to do something with him and just, you know, give him a little bit like, you know, some hands back. So that was cool for me, and like for me was one on the bucket list done, because I always want to wrestle against him. So even if it was just a get over match for him, it was a cool experience, and also like a good experience for me just be first at NXT television, where I had the chance to make some mistakes and also make some new experience how it is to be recorded on a TV production for WWE. So it was super early in the comparison to some other guys. Even if I have done some wrestling before, I think WWE wasn't too much aware of it that I was an active professional wrestler before that, because some people get another treatment if they know you already done something. But I was happy with the decision that they put me against him in this kind of match, so I could show off a little bit what I could do, a little bit, you know, a small thing. And then in the end, it turned out to you know, sooner or later was getting more, and I think again was a good start.
Awesome. I'll translate that. Alexander Wolfe hace su debut en NXT contra nada más y nada menos que Samoa Joe. Es una lucha televisada, rapidito, mucho más pronto que el resto de las personas, como él menciona, donde tuvo la oportunidad de cometer sus errores, de trabajar en cámara, pero también de aprender y de crecer. Tuvo la oportunidad de hacer las dos cosas. Él es fanático de Samoa Joe y de su trabajo, y sí, y lo fue en aquel momento también. Recuerda cuando Samoa Joe estaba en la división X en TNA, destruyendo todo el mundo por ahí para abajo, y tener a Joe como su oponente fue algo bueno. Es como que, ok, lo saqué del bucket list, lo tengo aquí ya afuera, y fue una oportunidad de poder mostrarle al público tal vez un poquitito, y el de los directivos de NXT, del talento que él tenía y lo que él podía hacer. After that brief single run, you were paired up with your tag team partner at that point, today known as Madman Fulton, Sawyer Fulton. And like after that, you had the opportunity, you know, to be part of a stable called SAnitY along with Eric Young and Nikki Cross. How was working with them? How did the idea occur? Do you feel comfortable being in a stable?
Working with all four of them, or all four of them, because later Madman Fulton got replaced with Killian Dane, was great. Great experience. We all had chemistry together, and all four of them great human beings. So even like being around them in private life was sugar. Just being in a stable is a good way to start, good way to come in, because first of all, production sees something in you that you fit that stable, and also from that idea from a stable, you could kind of like single out sooner or later if they want to do something different. But you have your foot in the door even more. You are in the door frame. And now it's time to go. So I was lucky enough to share the debut with three of awesome guys, Nikki, Eric, and Sawyer. And then later on, when they had to replace Sawyer because of injury, Killian Dane joined. And it was awesome chemistry. So I had a lot of good times with them.
Awesome, I'll translate that. Ok, cuando inicia Sawyer Fulton y Alexander Wolfe los parean juntos y eventualmente ese grupo se convierte en SAnitY, Eric Young, Nikki Cross, Sawyer Fulton y Alexander Wolfe. Eventualmente cuando se lesiona Sawyer Fulton, ingresa Killian Dane, dice que fue excelente trabajar con los cuatro buenos seres humanos, con la misma mentalidad, trabajando, todos remando hacia la misma dirección. Y eso era lo que él quería, vamos a decirlo, hacer con su vida, tener la oportunidad de exponer su talento, y qué mejor que hacerlo con cuatro competidores con los que puedes confiar. You know, talking about that, you just said, you made your official debut, like a SAnitY, quote unquote, the stable debut, against Bobby Roode and Ty Dillinger in the Dusty Road Tag Team Classic. And a few months after that, you guys conquered the tag team titles of NXT, defeating the Authors of Pain, one of the most dominant tag teams in NXT, against 15,000 plus people in NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. What do you recall of, you know, that night you captured tag team gold along with your crew?
It was amazing. We tried to make the match very special because Authors of Pain has like they have beaten like the entire tag team division so far, and we've been the one to dethrone the guys. So we had to come up with something very special, something would fit like the SAnitY character, that we kind of not beat them because we are stronger, because we're not. We had to come up with, you know, distracting, being chaotic, being SAnitY. I remember when we had the match down and we had the chance to perform in front of all those great fans in Brooklyn, and we got the reaction for that. So we were very happy about how everything turned out and how everything just, you know, was presented to the fans. And also that the guys in the back, like Triple H and all of them, being very happy with the outcome of the match. So in the end, it was a full success. And of course, it's always great to become champion. And it was, again, like one of the things where you had to believe, like, okay, we are on a good way, we are on a good part, because right now we are the NXT Tag Team Champions. And that means that the company, Triple H, you name it, they put a big like trust in us that we can represent this company as tag team champions, and that was super cool.
Awesome. Ok, Alexander Wolfe hizo varias cosas, entre ellos su debut lo hizo en pareja en el Dusty Road Tag Team Classic, derrotan a Bobby Roode y derrotan también a Ty Dillinger. Posterior a eso, ganan los campeonatos en pareja en NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3 ante más de 15,000 personas contra The Authors of Pain. Dice que fue un momento muy feliz en su carrera, pero sobre todo, él menciona que no era cuestión de quién era más fuerte que quién. Authors of Pain era más fuerte. SAnitY usó estrategia, usaron el caos, distracciones. SAnitY fue SAnitY esa noche. La reacción del público lo puso muy feliz, el pop cuando ellos ganaron, pero sobre todo el hecho de que Triple H y todo el staff de NXT hayan confiado en ellos para hacer eso, simplemente se siente bien. Nuevamente te están dando la confianza para representar NXT, para representar la marca María, para representar WWE, y tener esa confianza depositada en ti simplemente se siente fantástico. After a while, you know, on the NXT roster, I mean, you face Undisputed Era among many other names, but you all were notified that you were going to the main roster and you were going to be, you know, be drafted to SmackDown. You had your first pay-per-view match for WWE on the main roster on Extreme Rules, and you defeated the New Day, like the New Day in your debut match. Those are, at this point in the modern era, the most condecorated tag team. Like, these guys have won it all. And even on a tables match. What do you recall for that night, and how special for your career was to defeat New Day that day?
It was very special just to work with those guys, because all three of them are amazing, and also amazing human beings as well. Because a lot of times you have amazing talent, but you know, in the back they are not quite cool as you would think. But both of guys are the same, like on stage, off stage, they're super cool guys, and are and like what we just been really like not surprised, but like where we just been really honored was that they guys are really excited to work with us, and they are willing to give us all. Not like saying like, no, we do not want to do this or whatever. Say, hey, whatever you guys want, let's put it in there when it fits and everything. So let's have fun with it, and been really like making us optimistic about the whole thing run with them and everything. Unfortunately, like after that match, the SmackDown episodes, we got beaten and then we disappeared. But in that time, just having the first pay-per-view in our career for WWE against one of the greatest stables like for WWE, like the New Day, in a tables match, which is also like a cool match stipulation, and have the chance to win this. I mean, win or lose doesn't matter at that time, but we had the chance to perform with those guys in front of a lot of fans, and that was very special to us.
Perfect. Ok, ellos los draftean o los envían a SmackDown, ahí hacen su debut, pero tienen su primer pay-per-view con WWE, Extreme Rules, y sus oponentes, The New Day, uno de los equipos más condecorados en la historia moderna en WWE, uno de los mejores stables, como él bien dice, en WWE. Y allí él dice, obviamente fue especial. ¿Por qué motivo principalmente? Hay muchachos con los que tú trabajas y en stage son una cosa y tal vez no son tan cool atrás. New Day es exactamente igual. New Day son cool en el ring, cool backstage, son como que son gente buena, y les gustó trabajar con ellos, se sintió feliz. Lamentablemente después de eso pasa lo que pasa en SmackDown y los sacan de la televisión como que sin ningún motivo, which actually leads me to my next question. Why did they, you know, scrap out SAnitY out of the stories and immediately like broke the stable without even giving the chance to build it properly?
Yeah, that's a big question. I do not know the answer. The only thing what I can do, I can assume what was maybe the reason for that. I don't think that it was intentionally that they want to kind of like mess us up. I think when we got the call up, it took too much time till we debut. And sometimes in WWE or in general, is like you maybe have on Monday a good idea what to do, and then 2 weeks later it's not a good idea anymore because it does not fit in the current program or whatever. So it could be a matter of time. It could be maybe they've been hot on us, and then they saw us do our stuff, and they kind of, you know, did not dig the whole gig and just being like, oh, they're average show or nothing special to see here, whatever. But yeah, like we ask ourselves like the same questions at that time. We kind of been like very active about pitching things and just, you know, find a niche how we get into that TV position, just to, you know, have the exposure of becoming superstars in the end, that we get the recognition as New Day, as Usos, as you name it. So in the end, nobody really knows besides, I guess, the boss, what went wrong. But the only thing I could do is like guessing, but you know, there would be a lot of options. But I believe we tried our best, and sometimes it's also the thing that when something in NXT worked, it does not mean it works on Raw or SmackDown. So and also like we had our success in NXT, and I believe we should have stayed longer there for maybe 1 or 2 years just to get more established with the crowd, with the audience, till we really super over, and then we should have gone to SmackDown. But it is what it is. But in the end, it was a good experience here.
Yeah, I'll translate that. ¿Por qué motivo se separó o dejaron a SAnitY a un lado? Bueno, él dice, no sé la respuesta, puedo presumir o asumir por qué motivo pudo haber sido o deducir. Él menciona, bueno, hay mucho talento, tal vez pudo haberse perdido en el concepto, en el transcurso, tal vez algo que funcionó en NXT no necesariamente va a funcionar en el main roster, pero ellos constantemente estaban dando ideas, constantemente eran personas activas proponiendo, y fue algo que no funcionó, no sabe por qué, nadie sabe por qué, el único que sabe es el jefe, como él dice, y la realidad es que esa, o sea, hay cosas que pueden funcionar en NXT que no funcionan en el main roster, y pudo haberse simplemente perdido dentro de tanto talento en el roster o tantos luchadores en el roster activo. After SAnitY split, you went to NXT UK for a while and you were a part of Imperium along with Marcel, Fabian, and Walter. But you worked a pretty particular match on Raw. And that was Imperium against Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and the Street Profits. So that was like your fair comeback into the main roster, into this time into Raw. You guys had an incredible match that night. What do you recall, you know, first of all, of working with Imperium and of that match on Raw?
So working with Imperium was great because we knew each other from before, and we all been good friends still. So working with them was great, and also very important. Like we share like the art of wrestling in our perspective, what we think is right or what we like to do, that, you know, traditional stuff, just honor the values of it and everything. So that was great, and just being back on the main roster for that one night was cool as well, because you know guys in the back, and you come, I went backstage and it's just like nothing changed before. So, you know, I haven't chat with the boys and just been around all the other guys again. In the end, it was a one night off where I was pretty happy with this, because I felt comfortable and I felt like good with NXT UK and with Imperium. And I wasn't keen on going back to the main roster, even if the money would be better there. But sometimes it's not about money, it's about like being happy in life and just being satisfied with what you do. Yeah, but it was a good exposure, because at that time it was the whole Survivor Series deal, like NXT versus Raw versus SmackDown. And yeah, they came to Europe, they came to our territory, and we had to show them, you know, what we are all about.
Awesome, I'll translate that. Cuando él sale de SAnitY, se une a la marca NXT UK y ya se equipó con Marcel Bartel, Fabian Eichner y Walter como parte de Imperium. Y como parte de este feudo de Survivor Series, donde los luchadores del main roster llegan directamente a NXT UK en Europa, ellos deciden entonces invadir y llegan a Raw. Ahí es que tienen esa lucha, pero él llega al camerino y dice que es como si nada hubiese cambiado. Todos los muchachos lo recibieron igual, todo el mundo estaba contento con él, bueno saludarlo, y fue parte de esa experiencia. Lo interesante de esto es que nada cambió, todo fue parte de lo mismo, y él no estaba dispuesto a ir al main roster porque fue parte de, vamos a decirlo así, un one night only. Él estaba, muchas veces el dinero no es lo más que importa, sino ser feliz en lo que hace. I also want to say something else in Spanish. Pueden seguir a Alexander Wolfe en todas sus redes sociales a través de Instagram como @DWWEWolf, DWWE Wolf en Instagram, en Twitter como Axman3016 o Axman3016, ahí lo pueden seguir también en Twitter, cameo.com/Axman3016 o Axman3016 en cambio para cualquier video de cumpleaños, graduación, fiesta o un shout out, lo que sea, cameo.com/Axman3016, y de igual manera tiene toda su mercancía en slwrestling.de, ahí lo pueden encontrar directamente en el bio de su Instagram a la parte de abajo para t-shirts y todo tipo de mercancía, y a todos los promotores de todo el mundo, México, Puerto Rico, Argentina, Chile, Panamá, Costa Rica, Esto es un caballero que ha militado en SmackDown, Raw, NXT, NXT UK, todo el circuito independiente de Europa, Japón. Usted lo nombre, este caballero lo ha hecho. Un talento excelente para tener en su roster, así que denle la oportunidad. Pueden contactarlo en bookings a través de booking_AxelTeacher@gmx.com, booking_Axel AXGL T-shirt TISCHER @gmx.com, y ahí lo pueden contactar para más información. De todas formas, eso aparece al final, así que gracias a Jacobo por eso y a Lu también por la edición. Mr. T-shirt, it's been an honor for us to have you as our guest. Last but not least, I mean, we knew what happened. You explained it clearly in terms of social media. And we don't want we don't want you explaining the same thing you've been explaining in every interview. But what we do want to know is what's next for Alexander Wolfe. What's next for the Axeman? What's next for Axel Tischer? Like, you must be really hungry to go out there and prove everyone your worth, your value, and that's what we want to know. Your contract expires in June, I believe, June 14, June 16, during those days. What's next for you? What are you looking forward the most in the wrestling industry?
I'm looking forward to go back to work. And don't get me wrong, like, I had great time in WWE, and I will probably never make so much money again with doing nothing, sitting at home. But I'm done with waiting. I'm done with sitting at home. Of course, I have to wait right now, especially with the Corona pandemic stuff. That like in Europe, for example, or like in Germany, not everything is open and back to operate 100%. But I'm super keen on making myself heard out there. I want to present myself with all what I can do for any promotion, for any wrestling company, for all like what I can present to them, what a great asset I can be for a company. And again, I'm thankful for 6 years WWE, but I think a lot of times I wasn't utilized properly how they should be utilized. But you know, no blaming on them, because a lot of times you have to blame yourself first, and I probably wasn't 100% always all the time. So you know, but now for me is again a new start, and I really want to showcase myself in a brighter way, in a better way, probably all over the place, and you know, work towards maybe I get signed by a big company again, and that's always the goal. But for now, like, for me, it's the thing, I have to move back to Germany first because of visa reasons as well. I cannot stay in the States. We'll move back to my hometown. We'll move back to friends and family, and we'll start operating from there again. A lot of requests, a lot of stuff happening already. So we'll see. I have just like to orchestrate everything and just, you know, put everything in order in place until I can start my re-debut on the indie circuit. But I'm super keen on it. I definitely want to travel again. I want to travel the world again, and we'll see. We'll see. Maybe one time I have the chance to do my debut in South America, Mexico, wherever, big wrestling scene is there. Definitely would love to go back to Japan, Europe, all over the place. Definitely would love to come back to the States. So I'm open for everything as long as it's professional, and the value behind is good, and the offer is good. And yeah, I'm super excited what comes next for me, and I'm super positive that my future will be good.
I'll translate that. ¿Qué podemos esperar de Alexander Wolfe del Axeman, en esta nueva fase de su carrera? Él quiere llegar al ring, él quiere entrar a ese cuadrilátero, él quiere volver a luchar, él quiere tener esa pasión que tenía anteriormente, darlo todo nuevamente, explorar quién es él, explorar de qué está hecho el circuito independiente nuevamente, qué cambios hubo, pero lo principal es eso. Ahora mismo él tiene que moverse otra vez a Alemania por problemas por la cuestión de la visa y toda la cosa, empezar desde cero allá, nuevamente con su familia, con sus amistades alrededor, y construirse desde los cimientos. Pero él quiere luchar en México, él quiere luchar en América del Sur, él quiere luchar en Japón, en Europa, en Estados Unidos, en el mundo entero. Es cuestión de llegar allí. Créanme, el talento lo tiene. Es el primer campeón alemán en la historia de WWE. He's the first German-born wrestler to win a title in the WWE. So es algo bastante importante también mencionarlo. A través de bookings lo pueden conseguir en booking_AxelTeacher@gmx.com. Va a aparecer al final, como les dijimos. Mr. Tischer, it's been an honor for us to have you here as our guest. Always wishing you success in your career and in your personal life. And let's cross fingers, man. I want to see you in Puerto Rico and Mexico and South America really soon.
Always. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation. It was an honor to be with you on the podcast at work. I enjoyed your translation. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Y estos fueron Alexander Wolfe y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en español.